Welcome back to the channel, guys. Definitely appreciate the support. This video, I'm going to get right into it so I don't have to re-record because I do that a lot. We're going to dive into quarters coverage and the rules when it comes to match. And I'll be able to pump out a lot more videos going over the assignments of each player when I do it on the Telestrator app that I have. I was thinking about doing it on the regular way with all of the graphics jumping in. It would look a lot nicer, but I think it's a lot more effective to do it this way because I'll be able to put out more content. So, this could almost be like a library for sorts. Okay, so you call cover 4, and when you come out, this is the play art that will show when you hold R2. Okay, what people need to understand, if you don't understand match coverage, is they will play nothing like this if you have match on. Okay, match plays 100% different than this, and it's kind of like poor design on Madden's part for not implementing a pre-art deal that kind of properly describes the match coverage. Okay, because they've had this in since 2019. It's been 4 years, and they still keep it the way it is with the blue zones and etc. They need to change that, but it is what it is. So we'll go to the screen here. Okay, so first and foremost, the most important part when it comes to match is you need to understand the numbering system. So you draw a line right down the center. It's a horrible line. And you count from outside in. 1, 2, that's it, because you've ran into the line. Outside in, 1, 2, 3. It's very important because this is like the anchor system for knowing who's responsible for what. And we're going to go over the secondary first. So I don't know why I deleted those numbers. I'll put them back in. Okay, your corner is responsible for 1 to 2. That's what he's reading post snap. Safety is reading 2 to 1. Your quarter flat player is your match 2 out player. This is your 3 rec, your middle linebacker here. And then that's it. If you're wondering, well, what about these guys? They're the same as this side. It's just a mirror. This corner is reading 1 to 2. He's reading 2 to 1. And he's your match 2 out player. Okay? And when you're playing quarters, they have run fit responsibilities. And one of the benefits of quarters is you're able to get sometimes 9 in the box to defend the run. So I'm going to put Q is a representation of having a run fit. Okay, I'll just put Q there. Q, Q, Q. Okay, your corners do not have run fit responsibilities in this coverage. All right, so we'll take a look at the corners and the safeties. Okay, remember he's reading 1 to 2. If 1 goes vertical, then I take him man to man. Okay, because he's 1 to 2. Okay, snap of the ball, he goes upfield. That ends his decision making. He will immediately turn to man. Okay. Now, vertical can be anchored upon one of many different things. I've heard it anchored at linebacker depth. I've heard it at 10 yards. I think Madden has it coded at around 8 to 9 yards, maybe 10 yards. Okay, and what I mean by that is what determines a route as a vertical route, right? So if you run here, you run like this, and we determine this as the anchor point for when you're vertical, well then I'm matching that route, right? But if we don't, and we determine it at 10 yards, and he goes like this, well then I'm not going to match that route man to man, because then I'm going to move into my next step in the process, okay? So he's 1 to 2. I think in Madden it's 10 yards, so we're just going to roll with 10 yards. So let's say this guy does this, right? Well, now I'm not manning up the 1. What's the next step in the process? Well, I'm going to man up 2, okay? And we'll get over to the safety. Safety is reading 2 to 1. If 2 is a vertical route, then he matches it man to man. So let's say this guy runs a corner, okay? Well, then he's going to match this man to man. But on a route concept like this corner route would be doubled, because in this particular route combination that they have here, I'm not manning up the slant because he's underneath linebacker depth, or it's not determined to be a vertical route. So then he'll look to 2, and we'll see that he's running a corner, and now we can get a nice little bracket here. That's how we get a double team. It's one of the benefits of quarters coverage. It kind of adapts to what routes are being ran. Okay. Now, again, he's reading 2 to 1. What if 2 runs something underneath? What if something like this happens? Okay. I'll do something like this. Those are 2 different routes depending on what happens. Okay, you run underneath, so I'm not gonna man up the number 2. Now I get my eyes on number 1, right? Now if number 1 runs an outside fade, well then he's not going to help out on that route. That's something that the corner should be able to deal with one-on-one with the sideline as his help. Okay, but if he runs inside, I think they call it post dig curl for the safety. 2's underneath, so now I'm going to play post dig curl technique where I'm looking to rob the post, a dig, or curl, right? And while this guy's playing man-to-man on this player as well. So in a route combination like this, essentially, this guy should get doubled. Okay? So that's that. Now we'll get to the quarter flat player. He is a match 2 out player. Now the most important thing you got to know about this guy is he's definitely in the run fit. So I'll put Q, M, 2 out. Okay? So at the snap of the ball, he's responsible for a particular run fit. Okay? But if it's not a run, if 2 goes out, I match it. Okay? Now if 2 goes in, you gotta think about it. They call it out, up, or back. Back as in back to the ball, right? If he goes out, I have him. If he goes in, then I squeeze the route because he's the number 2, right? And while I'm squeezing it, I'm cognizant of the back leaking out of the flat, out into the flat. The reason why that is because you are a match 2 out player. And let's say we run these routes at about this point, the back is here and this guy's here. Well, now this guy is really the new number 3. It's the way I look at it. And the back is the new number 2. The reason being is because, it's really like a relative thing. At that point in the routes or in the play, if you were to do the counting system, 1, back would be here, 2, this guy would be here, 3. It's always outside in, 1, 2, 3. Okay? So he'd be cognizant of this guy leaking out. He would squeeze this, and then when this guy squeezes out, he's got a match 2 out. Right? Now, if he goes vertical, remember, he's reading 2 to 1, so he's going to take this route, but it's very important for your match 2 out player to reroute, collide, and take away that inside quick throw to this player. And that helps out the safety so this guy doesn't get a full head of steam on the safety without a reroute, right? And then we'll get to our 3 rec. He relates to the 3. Okay, so in an instance where this guy goes out like this, you're pretty much matching that route. Okay, if he goes over here and we got this instance here, he would end up taking this route, right? This guy would be the new number 3. Okay. Match 2 out player, we already know the rules for this guy. 2 to 1, we know the rules for this guy, and we know the rules for this guy. So we've learned what match is all about when you're playing against a 2x2 set like this. Okay, so that was quarters coverage and the responsibilities. Now, there's also a coverage called palms coverage. Okay, and I'll go over that really quickly. Palms coverage, it's a little bit different. Okay, your safety is still reading 2 to 1. Okay, and I'll just do it on this side because when you play palms, it's just maybe too much information. When you play palms, if you have an attached tight end, then they don't play palms on this side. They play regular quarters, and there's a reason for that. Okay, but we're going to do it for this side because it's detached here. He's reading 2 to 1, and your corner is also reading 2 to 1, and that's where you got a little bit of a change. Okay, and I'll call him a palms quarter flat player, because he's not a match 2 out player anymore. Okay, so what happens is I'm reading 2 to 1. If 2 is vertical, I match it man to man. Okay, this guy who's reading 2 to 1, is 2 vertical? Yes. If so, then I'm looking to match 1 man to man. So it plays out the way regular quarters coverage would play based upon the route distribution. Where it changes is if the number 2 goes out. 2 to 1, and he's reading 2 to 1. Okay? I'm reading 2 to 1. If 2 goes out, then I get my eyes on number 1 looking to play that route man-to-man. I have to top that route immediately, playing that route man-to-man. Okay? Your corner here, he's reading 2 to 1. When 2 is out, then he traps that route and he plays that route man-to-man. He's jumping that aggressively. And that's the difference with Palm's coverage. It plays different than quarters coverage when you have the number 2 running an out. And you may ask, why do they do that? Hopefully I'll get into that. Now, this player here, remember he was a match 2 out player in regular quarters, right? Well, in Palms, he's not a match 2 out player. And the reason why that is because he's taking 2 when he goes out. So there's no need for you to go out. Why would we waste 2 players into the same area, right? So if he goes out, then he's really just going to play more of like a curl technique and zone out. I think he's really supposed to cut the number 1. I don't think Madden does that. So this guy goes out and we got Palms. I think you go out so then I can kind of play into the window of this, helping out our safety, right? And then I'm going to trap that. 3 rec really doesn't change. And then obviously over this side, you guys know what's going on there. So why would we do that? Okay, so how about we get into ways you can attack quarters coverage. This is regular quarters coverage we're going to go over, right? 1 to 2, 2 to 1, quarter flat, match 2 out, 3 rec. All right, some ways teams can attack quarters coverage is the Mills concept. It's one where you try to attack deep, where you send this guy up the field and then you send this guy on a deep post. Okay, and the reason why this concept is theoretically excellent against quarters match coverage is, remember, it's all about knowing the rules, right? He's reading 2 to 1. 2 is vertical, so I'm going to match this route, right? So now this safety's out of there running with this guy. Now we are one-on-one deep with this corner, right? And if he's playing with outside leverage, it's even worse. Now we got all this space to drop a ball over the middle of the field, right? So that's the Mills concept. This is one way you can theoretically attack quarters coverage. Another problem is this guy running an out pattern, right? This guy's a match 2 player, match 2 out player, but notice that he's inside leverage, okay? So, you know, theoretically, it's easier for him to attack the space to the outside with me playing with inside leverage, okay? So, you know, we can throw that out pretty much every time, theoretically, against this, okay? Now, obviously, there's a lot more ways you can attack quarters coverage, but, you know, those are just 2 quick ways I can give you right there. But the biggest problem with quarters coverage, the most effective way, in my opinion, to attack quarters coverage is what you do is you find the conflict player. And that player is this guy here, okay? Pretty sure you can make conflicts with other guys, but we're just going to go on the quarter flat player. Remember his responsibility. This is why it's important to know each defense, so you can know the strengths and weaknesses of each defense, and then you know where you can attack, right? What's his responsibilities? Well, he has a run fit, so we'll put Q first, okay? Snap of the ball, is it a run? So that's the first step in this process. Okay, it's not a run. Now I'm looking my eyes at number 2 because I'm going to match 2 out. Okay, obviously there's more stuff there, but this is just the most basic form of it. Okay, we got to kind of make it simple. It's just Madden, right? Okay, well, what we can do is we can snap the ball, act like it's a run, fake a run, right? So now, you know, am I going for the run? Is it a run? And then we're not running the ball. This guy's actually going directly to the flat. And this is your typical RPO, right? So you're in conflict. You move inside, we throw out because you're supposed to cover that. But you can't because you moved inside to attack your run fit. If you, for whatever reason, we snap the ball and we look like we're going to hand off and, you know, you flare outside, well, now your run fit is not being filled because you're playing outside, right? So that's the typical thing you can do is RPOs. It's another way you can attack quarters coverage, okay? So I mean, that right there is a very big weakness. This player right here, you put into conflict. Okay. Well, in comes palms coverage. This may be a reason why you call palms. Okay. What if we do that RPO stuff again? And now this guy goes to the outs. We snap the ball, and you hang inside, right? Because you have a run fit. And we see that you're inside. Okay, I can throw it. He throws this ball. Well, this guy is trapping the two. Remember, in palms coverage, he's a 2-to-1 read. And he's a 2-to-1. Remember the responsibilities. If 2 goes out, then I match 1 vertical, knowing that this guy's reading 2-to-1 as well, and he's going to jump that route, right? So that's one of the benefits of palms coverage. You allow this player to be a lot more aggressive in his run fit because you alleviate the conflict. He's not responsible for taking 2 out anymore, right? So he doesn't have to second guess on action like that. He knows when you go out, I know my guy's going to attack that, and you got that. Now, maybe a play action, you step inside, and you're really supposed to cut the 1, right? But we're not in horrible shape there, okay? So that's just me kind of going off the rails, probably talking too much, okay? So what are ways where, now just knowing that, what are ways you can attack palms coverage, right? If you knew it was palms coverage for whatever reason. Well, just going off the top of my head, what if we have our baller here, and you have a poor safety here? We kind of like that matchup there. We can draw up something where, hey, you go to the flat because I know you're going to attack that, and now he's one-on-one with the safety, right? Do a number of different things to torch this guy, especially with the free release, okay? But that's the whole point. You don't want to play palms and your opponent knows you're playing palms, right? Palms is a trap coverage. It's designed to be a trap. It's bait, right? It's not a trap if they know it's a trap. Like they know you're running it. How is that a trap, right? So then we would easily just free release up the field, one-on-one with the safety. This guy's toast, right? So it's very important to kind of hide your intentions when you're playing like palms, at least in my opinion. Okay, so you know what? I think I will leave it at that because I don't want this video to be too long. I think in the next video I'll show the trips variations and how they check when you play trips.